Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to lesson 1 of your signature series in mindfulness meditation brought to you by Studio B. My name is Christine Kaisinger, and I serve Studio B as Vice President of Development and also as lead trainer in the areas of emotional intelligence, conscious communication, and I also teach in our signature series. Since this is a recorded version of lesson 1, I'm going to use slides to help to keep you engaged, and periodically we'll depart from these slides whenever we're going to come into practice. And we're going to come into 4 different practices during our time together today. So this is lesson 1. And before we launch in, I want to take us back and just do a little review by touching into what it is and what it means to practice mindfulness. And the best place to start is to revisit the definition of mindfulness that we talked about during your orientation. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is moment-to-moment awareness of what is here and now, just as it is. Just as it is. What is here and now? I don't have to like it. I might love it. I might feel neutral about it. But can I have moment-to-moment awareness of it, just as it is, without having to change it, manipulate it, without exaggerating it, blowing it out of proportion, without dramatizing it, catastrophizing it, or minimizing it, diminishing it, or talking ourselves out of what is here and now. That's the definition of mindfulness. And it's not an easy state to achieve, but it is achievable with practice. I like to use the word catastrophize because catastrophizing thinking is something that I'm all too familiar with. Something happens. I have a very high capacity to dramatize, exaggerate, blow it out of proportion, and even experience it as a catastrophe of sorts. But I'm less apt to do that when I'm mindful of what is happening, how it's showing up for me, and my ability to take a moment and allow it to be what it is without trying to change it or manipulate it in any way. And that also includes diminishing it, minimizing it, or trying to talk ourselves or others out of whatever it is that is happening. Can you imagine the kind of freedom that you might feel if you were able to come into your day and to have any situation come into your realm and to have this sense that you can be okay with what is? The word that I like to think about and that really, really works for me when I think about mindfulness is an allowance, as opposed to a surrendering to what is or an acceptance of what is. Work with whatever works for you. But for me, allowing really resonates. For me to accept or to surrender to what is sort of feels like a resignation of sorts. To allow what is an opening of sorts. It's almost like an embracing or a welcoming of sorts, as opposed to a resisting or a running away or allowing it to overwhelm me or engulf me. Can I just allow what is? Again, doesn't mean that I have to like it, but can I allow it? So I want you to sort of think about, when you think about mindfulness, what kinds of words or descriptions would you use to describe what it is. So the hallmark of lesson 1 is what we call establishing an anchor. This practice and this capacity to anchor yourself is absolutely invaluable. And so the content of today's lesson is going to help you to do that. So what do we mean by anchor? I like to use this image. You've got a boat or a ship, and it's navigating really, really turbulent water. Life can feel this way. And as the captain of our own ships, when we are aiming to navigate turbulent waters, one of the things that we know is that if we want to achieve a state of steadiness, we've got to anchor ourselves. We've got to find a way to ground or stabilize. So what is needed when we are navigating the rough waters of our own lives? In other words, what is needed from us in order to traverse, deal with, meet, manage, navigate really difficult situations? Ideally, calm. It always helps me when something really difficult arises that I can lean into a capacity to remain calm no matter what it is. It also helps, again, going back to the analogy of being on rough waters, it also helps if I can find a sense of steadiness and a sense of balance. It really helps if even in the face of something very challenging arising, I can maintain my own mental clarity. That cognitively, I can trust that my mind will remain clear. And that if it remains clear, I know that I can make the best decisions possible given the difficulty of the situation. Anchoring helps me to stay connected to others. Again, go back to the boat analogy. Let's say that I'm the sailor of the ship or the boat, and we're navigating rough waters and I'm not alone. As the captain, it really behooves me to be able to stay very connected to everyone else who's on the ship so that I can help to protect them, so that I can rely upon them for my own safety, and we can remain connected so that perhaps we can navigate together. What is needed to navigate rough waters? Competence and courage. One of the things that we know for sure about the stress response, when I'm really charged up, when I'm really triggered, when stress response is running high in me, lots of cortisol, lots of adrenaline, my capacity to really touch into my own competency is significantly compromised, especially when I'm experiencing chronic degrees of stress or lots of stress, hormones coursing through my bloodstream. So what we know about people who are highly accomplished and really competent is that when they're really stressed, they actually begin to doubt in their own competency. I don't want to have those kinds of doubts when I'm in the midst of a difficult situation. And similarly, I want to be able to call upon my own courage so that I can act. I can take action, perhaps even take risk in order to navigate the difficult situation. So again, going back to the analogy, the waters are really rough. You're the one who's navigating the boat. What is needed of that person who's sort of the captain? Calm, steadiness and balance, cognitive clarity, the ability to stay connected to others around me, a sense of my own competency and ability to call upon my strengths, and also a willingness, when necessary, to become courageous. So the waters of your life are really turbulent. You're really thinking about this analogy, and you're thinking about, how do I get to that place where I can achieve these qualities? calm, steadiness, clarity, connection, competency, and courage. How do I do that? I do that by finding a way to anchor. Think about the role that the anchor plays. Once anchored, all of that tumultuous movement in the boat, everything that's causing the unsteadiness begins to calm. So maybe the boat will only rock minimally, but if it's only rocking minimally, I can carry us forward. So to anchor is the way in which you find your own ground. It's how you discover your own steadiness. When you can anchor, and I'm going to show you lots of different ways to anchor today. When you can anchor, anchoring becomes a really important inner resource that you can rely upon. And so learning how to anchor contributes very, very significantly to your ability to self-trust. I know in working with anchors for almost 30 years now, that anything can happen to me. Any sort of difficult situation can come into my realm. And again, I might not like it, and it might be really painful, and it might be really, really difficult. But I can trust that I have the resources inside of me to meet, manage those situations, which makes every day that I wake up into one in which I don't have to fear, because these inner resources are with me. What I've also come to learn about anchoring is when you anchor yourself on a regular basis, you begin to create the experience of what I and others call equanimity. What is equanimity? Equanimity is mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially during a difficult situation. So imagine you're in the rough waters of life. You're in a difficult situation. Imagine what it would mean for you and how it would feel if you knew that you could call upon equanimity to manage what's there. Yeah, I've got mental calmness. I can rely upon the fact that I can stay composed, that I can behave in ways that demonstrate that I have an evenness of temper, even in a really difficult situation. We are all capable of achieving, experiencing, calling upon, even generating a sense of equanimity. And it's really a beautiful quality. In fact, it's one of my very, very favorite outcomes of a very consistent mindfulness meditation practice. So, practice one, let's anchor. And the way that we're going to do this is that I'm going to take us through a guided meditation experience where we are going to experience 4 different anchors. And these anchors are actually located in the body. This is an important meditation practice for a number of different reasons, many of which I'm going to talk about after we have the practice. So I'll save that for after the experience. But what I would like to do, or ask you to do, or invite you to do, as we are visiting these 4 different anchors in the body, you're going to sort of drop down into them, and I want you to just notice how they feel. Because my ideal goal, one of my ideal goals, would be to have you leave today's session with the sense of what anchor felt best for you. And what anchor might you rely upon over the course of the next 2 weeks or so until we see each other again? What anchor might you rely upon whenever you are in the midst of a really difficult situation. So let's get started. I'd like for you to come into a very comfortable seated position, preferably with the feet on the floor, about hip width apart. Right away, I want to invite you to just straighten up a bit through your spine, but at the same time, allow the musculature through your back to be nice and relaxed. I want to invite you to close your eyes. And if closing your eyes isn't comfortable, you can keep your eyes open, but keep your gaze very soft so that the eye muscles are nice and relaxed. And we're just going to take a few moments here. Maybe becoming very aware of the sensation of your seat. Maybe the weight of your own body. Relaxing, softening against whatever it is you're seated upon. And I want to invite you to take 3 deep breaths, allowing the exhalation to be a full release. So take a deep breath in with me and exhale. Inhale. Exhale, relaxing your shoulders. Inhale. And exhale. Continue to inhale and exhale. Nice and easy. Allowing the breath to be just as it is. And very gently guide your awareness down to your feet. Noticing the sensation of your feet resting against the floor. Tuning into the weight of your own feet and the capacity of your feet to be a grounding, stabilizing, anchoring force. And very gently, guide your awareness to your hands resting on your thighs. Just noticing the shape and the weight. Notice the weight of your own hands. The sensation of these hands and the weight of these hands can also be your anchor. Gently guide your awareness. Guide it now to your spine. Touching into the strength of your own back. The strength of your spine. Its capacity to hold you up. To back you up. Always with you. Your spine, too, can be an important anchor. And ever so gently guide your awareness to your breath. For now, just observing the sensation of your breath as it comes in through the nostrils on the inhalation, and the sensation of the breath as it exits on the exhalation. Inhale, exhale, knowing too that your breath, always with you, can be an important anchor. The feet can ground and stabilize. The hands, your hands, can anchor. The spine, you can call upon its strength. Your breath, constant, always with you. Feet, hands, spine, breath. All of the ways that you can anchor. Ever so gently dropping the chin. Ever so gently opening your eyes. So in that brief practice, we sort of took a tour around the whole body, and we just dropped into 4 different places in the body that can serve as anchors. The feet, the hands, the weight of the hands resting on your thighs, your own back, and your own breath. We all have our favorite anchors. My favorite go-to anchor is my feet. It always has been. I've had a daily meditation practice for over 30 years. And very recently, I was driving and I got a phone call with some bad news. I really should not have been driving upon hearing this news, but there wasn't anywhere for me to pull over. I was on a highway. And I knew that I needed to anchor quickly. So I went right to my feet. Even in the act of driving, I take my awareness to my feet and I just connect the sensation of my own feet. And that's how I anchored myself in that moment where I felt like the waters of my own life were really turbulent. So I invite you to work with those 4 anchors over the course of the next 4 weeks or 2 weeks till we see you again, and ask yourself, what felt best for me? And work with those 4, the feet, the weight of the hands on your thighs, the breath, and the strength of your own back. You can even do your own mini meditation like this, maybe even just dropping into meditation for about 3 minutes and taking a tour to those 4 different places and just asking what feels most supportive, most grounding, most steadying for me. And then when you're out and about and something difficult happens, you can go right to that anchor in that moment. So you don't need to be in your formal meditation practice. And this is one of the reasons why anchoring in and through the body is so important, because our bodies are with us all the time. All the time. I can be in a crowded airport and have a difficult situation arise that's causing me to feel very dismantled, and go right to my feet, or right to my breath, or right to my back, or right to my hands. And you may even want to experiment with other parts of the body that might become powerful anchors for you. Okay, so this is what it means to anchor mindfully. So one of the key anchors, and a really important anchor in mindfulness meditation, is the breath. And I want to spend a little bit of time with you today talking about the breath and why it's an important anchor. But as I'm moving through this content on the breath, and we're going to work with the breath a little bit today, I want you to know that anchoring through the breath doesn't work for everyone, especially in the beginning. So as we're moving through some of the practices, the next couple of practices, if focusing on the breath doesn't work for you, if it causes anxiety, if it just doesn't seem to be providing that sense of anchoring, you can always go to the feet, you can always go to the hands, you can always go to the back. Okay, there's always options. So here's what we know to be true about the breath. It is our constant companion. It is with you from the very beginning. It's what you did first. You came out of the womb. The first thing you did, you drew your first breath. And your breath is the last thing to leave as you depart. Think about how amazing that is. And it is with us every single moment of every day between our birth and between our passing. As such, it is a reliable, trusted companion with us all the time. The breath is the life force. No breath, no life. And as such, the breath is revered globally. The breath is also known as qi, sometimes known as ki, also known as prana. Qi, ki, prana all mean the same thing, breath, the life force. Again, absent breath, there is no life. The breath is absolutely central to our vitality. It is absolutely necessary to having a steady mind. The breath is necessary for the healthy function of our organs, of our glands, of our musculature. It is absolutely necessary. Oxygen is necessary to the purity and the quality of the blood that runs through our veins. The breath is absolutely necessary to every system of the body. Absolutely necessary to our cognitive functioning. We need breath for focus, awareness. We need breath for memorization. We need breath. We need oxygen to help us take information in and then to assimilate it in a way that stays with us. So even in the act of learning, as you are right now, your breath is playing a central role. It's one of the reasons why learning becomes difficult when we are not breathing deeply and completely. Deep and complete breath means a full inhalation, taking it right down into the fullness of the belly, even below, filling ourselves up, and then a full exhalation, every bit of it out. Given the busy and frantic nature of our daily lives, most of us are not breathing that fully and that completely, to our detriment. Because everything I just said absolutely needs the breath to function at optimal levels. We need it to feel energized. We need our breath to feel vital. Most often the breath is taken for granted because we don't even realize we're breathing. The body will breathe itself. Thank goodness. The body will breathe itself. But it is such a tremendous asset. It is so important if you have this conscious awareness of how important your breath is and the ways in which you can work with your breath so that it best serves you. 3 important aspects of the breath, what we call parts of the breath. There is the inhale, there is the exhale, and then there is what is called the in-between. So what is the functioning of our inhale? It nourishes the system. It's bringing into the system everything that it needs to function well. It energizes. Again, you want to think inhalation, vitality, energy, awakening, waking up. It helps to heal the central nervous system, especially if you're someone who has experienced periods of time in your life where there's been chronic stress or trauma. Working to make those inhalations fuller and more complete can help to heal the way in which your nervous systems have just been battered by chronic stress. The exhalation is just as important. I inhale to nourish, I exhale to detoxify. I exhale to purify. I exhale to expel everything this body doesn't need. And that includes, I exhale my stress. I exhale thoughts that don't serve me. We often use the phrase, take an exhale. Let it go. That too is so healing to the central nervous system. When we feel we are holding on tight, when we've got the tight grip around our reality and circumstances, take a breath. We often say this to people, especially during crisis. Take a deep breath. And what we mean is don't just take the breath in. The exhale is what causes that sense of relief. And then there is this little rest. It's not even something that we can perceive between the inhalation and the exhalation. And that in between is a beautiful source of rest, respite, sanctuary. So if you wanted to, you can play with the breath mindfully, focusing on the depth and the importance of that inhalation, maybe taking a pause, and then coming into the fullness of that exhalation, maybe taking a pause, coming back up into that inhalation, maybe taking a rest. Exhale, taking a rest, so that you're consciously and intentionally creating longer in-betweens. And just notice what happens. But become aware of the way that the body is breathing itself with these three parts: the inhalation, the exhalation, and then the between. So the inhale awakens, energizes. The exhale sedates, relaxes. It's a letting go. And then that pause, that little between, is the rest, the respite, the sanctuary. So what are the qualities of what we would call your best breath, right? Your best breathing situation. The qualities of that would be that the breath would feel very natural, effortless, ease, not striving, not trying to make anything happen. Our best breath is calm, it's unhurried, it's nurturing, and it's precious. My best breaths are precious. Why? Because I'm aware that I'm breathing, and I'm glad and grateful that I'm breathing. When breath is out of balance, and this often happens when we're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, or in the grip of uncertainty, the breath can feel very edgy. It can feel anxious. It can feel frenetic. It can feel agitated, irritated. Sometimes my breath, when it's out of balance, feels very jagged. It feels like it has jagged, sharp edges. Breath out of balance can feel unsettled. It can physiologically feel irregular. It can feel rapid, sort of like a runaway train. My breath is so rapid, so out of my control, that it's just like a speeding train. And I've got to catch it. I've got to catch it, rein it back in. And sometimes breath out of balance can feel really skittish. So those are nice ways of describing breath when it's out of balance, right? As opposed to natural, effortless, calm, unhurried, nurturing, and precious. So just being exposed to these qualities, we can start asking ourselves at any time, where am I with this breath? How can I use the breath as an anchor? Because it's with me all the time. How can I become more mindful and aware of the breath? Part of how we can do that is to begin dropping in, focusing on the breath, and exploring what are the qualities right now of this breath, of this breath, of this next breath. So we're going to do that right now. This is a second practice. This is a shorter practice. And we're going to explore the qualities of our own breath. So I want you to come back into that comfortable seated position, preferably with the feet flat on the floor, hip width apart. And again, I invite you to close your eyes. If not, keep your gaze nice and soft. And just taking a few moments to get settled. And I want you to bring your awareness to your breath. And I want you to begin to notice how the breath feels on the inhalation, on the exhalation. Maybe noticing the temperature of your breath. Maybe noticing qualities like, does it feel smooth? Does it feel thick or thin? Does it feel like it has a weight attached to it? What is its speed? Is it feeling frenetic? Is it feeling slow? What descriptors, what adjectives come to mind as you experience the quality, the qualities of each breath as it's entering and as it's exiting through the nostrils? And now I'd like for you to notice where the breath is landing. For example, where are you feeling its presence? Maybe it's in the upper chest. Maybe it's in the throat. Maybe it's at the front or back of the nostrils. Maybe it's in the belly, but the breath right now is felt by you predominantly in one place. Where is that place? Sometimes we describe this as the touch of the breath. Where is the touch of the breath felt by you right now? Just noticing, just observing, not judging. Perhaps observing that every breath feels different. Maybe is expressing different qualities, but just noticing. None of that matters, just noticing. And whenever you're ready, only when you're ready, open your eyes. In your own formal practice, which at this point, we would love for you to be practicing every day or daily-ish, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. It's one of the ways you can practice is to say, you know what? In my mindfulness meditation practice today, I'm just going to observe the qualities of my breath. And you set your timer and you just notice the qualities of your breath. So some of the prompts that I shared with you are Maybe noticing the temperature of your breath. I was observing, because the house is very cool right now, the cool nature of the breath, the temperature as it came in, and the warmth as it came out. My breath felt very, very smooth and very thick if I had to attach a texture to it. My breath was landing right in the center of the chest. This is where I felt what's called the touch of the breath. I was very aware. Sometimes I feel the breath or the touch of the breath at the space of the belly. Sometimes I feel the touch of my breath right here at the tip of my nose. It doesn't matter, but just noticing, just observing the qualities of the breath as everything else drops away. And when the mind wanders, just bring it back very gently to the qualities of the breath. So you can use that as your practice. And this is one of the ways in which, again, you can begin to use breath as an anchor. So you can be in a very, very stressful, difficult situation anywhere out there in the world and say to yourself, to anchor myself in this particular situation, no one even has to know that I'm doing it. I'm going to tune into the qualities of my breath, or I'm going to tune into where the breath is landing, the soft touch of the breath. And maybe just for 5 breaths. And I anchor myself. And in that anchored space, from that space, I am much better equipped to deal with the difficulty that I'm facing. So here's another tool I want to introduce to you. It is what we call the soft whisper of the breath. And just this morning, I was working with a colleague of mine who is a specialist in a very mindful approach to conflict. And he was leading me through a process to help me to create some calm and some space about a conflict that I'm grappling with. And we were working with, as part of the protocol, the soft whisper of the breath. What this means is that we pair the breath with a word or a phrase, or what we often refer to as a mantra. And in my work with my colleague this morning, I'll just demonstrate. On my inhalation, be. Think of the word be. On my exhalation, here. On my inhalation, now. Be here now. Okay, 3 things. I inhale, be, exhale, here. Inhale, now. So my awareness is on the breath, the inhale and the exhale, paired with a word. So that each time my mind is wandering back into the charge of the conflict, I come back to the mantra. In today's session, it was be here now. It can be anything. It can be here. It can be nourish, release. On the inhale, I nourish. On the exhale, I release. Thich Nhat Hanh. I inhale calm. I exhale stress. Inhaling, I am at peace. Exhaling, I smile. Inhale, peace. Exhale, smile. So, just for a few moments, let's try that. I'm going to lead us We're actually going to work with a 4-part mantra. I am here now. Just about 4 rounds. Ask yourself how it feels. And then maybe between now and the next time we're together, think about what mantra, what word, what phrase feels best for me. Okay, and does this strategy work well for me? It's worked phenomenally well for me when my mind is really, really active. And I not only need the breath to anchor, but I need something a little bit extra. And that can be the very soft whisper of the breath, which is the whisper of the word or the mantra. Okay? So just for a few moments, coming into that seated position, eyes closed, or keep your gaze soft. Taking that deep breath in, inhale, I am. On the exhale, here. On the inhale, now. On the exhale, keep going. I, on the inhale, am. On the exhale, here, now. 2 rounds on your own in the quiet. And now just allowing the mantra to drop away, just taking a few moments in the quiet. Dropping the chin very slightly. And whenever you're ready, opening your eyes. So lots of practices for you to work with today. Today's lesson, establishing, discovering, finding your anchor. First practice, we visited 4 different anchors: anchoring through the feet, anchoring through the back, anchoring through the weight of the hands against your thighs, anchoring through the breath. And then we came into very, very specific instruction on why and how the breath can be a really important anchor. Not for everyone and not all the time, but it is one of our most reliable resources for anchoring ourselves. And we went through the process of looking at the qualities of the breath, doing a guided meditation where we exclusively focused on where is the breath landing or where is the touch of the breath, counting, or not counting the breath, but assigning words to the qualities of the breath. As I said, I was aware of temperature, I was aware of texture, I was aware that my breath felt very smooth, yet very thick and heavy, felt very relaxed, and was landing right here, center chest. And then the next practice we came into was the whisper of the breath paired with a mantra. And we worked with I am here now. You can work, a lot of people I know, and myself included, I like to just choose one word for the inhalation and one word for the exhalation. But sometimes I like to do that 4-part like we did. I am here now. Most often when I do that practice, my words are nourish, release, or it can be nourish, surrender. It can be peace, surrender, peace, letting go. Okay? So you've got lots of options to choose from. So I just want to spend just a brief period of time before we depart, inviting you to perhaps increase the amount of time of your daily-ish practice. Let's see if we can work from 3 to 5 minutes. Let's see if for the next week, before we see each other again, we can work towards really taking time to explore these anchors so that you can know and have the kind of confidence that I talked about, that you can come into any kind of situation with the strength and the trust in yourself that you've got these resources that you can lean into, call upon when you're feeling really charged or triggered, or when you feel like you're really suffering, something is really difficult. You can work with those 4 anchors we established early on, and you can also play with some of these breath practices. Find a comfortable place where you can be, maybe setting a location. I know that during the orientation, Jen probably talked with you about maybe finding a time of day that works best for you. And sometimes that time of day is going to be different just depending on your schedule. But if there's a time of day that works best, see if you can stay with that. If not, no problem. But take that into account as well. Use a timer. You can use Insight Timer. You can, which I know Jen introduced to you last time. You can also use your own cell phone and set the alarm, and maybe attach it to something that sounds really pleasant when that alarm goes off. But use your timer so you start getting a sense of your meditation having a very clear beginning and a very clear end. And you also begin to develop a sense of what 3 minutes feels like, what 5 minutes feels like, and it becomes very intuitive. And then, of course, this lesson, as all of your lessons, will be followed up with a supportive email and all kinds of articles and links to support you, not only in this lesson, but in this entire journey. So, on that note, as we begin to depart, I want to take you through one last practice. And this practice is accompanied by a really important fact about the breath. This is actually a fact about the exhalation. When we inhale and we follow that inhalation with an exhalation that is slightly longer, we begin to calm down the central nervous system. So if you're in a very heightened, aroused state, really anxious, feeling really overwhelmed, feeling very triggered, very charged, feeling on the verge of being very reactive, and you want to bring yourself down, you can do that pretty quickly by lengthening your exhalation. So in this practice, which is only going to be 2 minutes, I'm going to actually set the timer for 2 minutes. We're going to breathe in silence, but I want you to very proactively lengthen your exhalation. Allow it to be longer than your inhalation. So we'll begin with the bell. It'll be 2 timed minutes. Just focusing on the breath in and out, but allow the exhalation to lengthen beyond the inhale, okay? And then we'll bring it to a close and begin. And just lengthening that exhalation. Inviting everything to soothe and settle as you lengthen that exhalation. When you hear the sound of the chime, just allow a few moments before you open your eyes. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you for spending this time with me. Lesson 1, establishing your anchor. Such a reliable source of stability and calm, something you can trust in. So become mindful of all the anchors that are with you every day, all day, including the breath. In our next lesson, we're going to expand our relationship to the breath. So until then, take very good care. See you soon.